Alright, homeboys, we are back. And we got some more Fire Emblem Heroes for you. I woke up like 10 minutes ago and I was like, alright, let's go ahead and knock out a video. My sleeping schedule is all messed up, by the way. But, I mean, it is what it is. In like 2 hours, I'm going to go for my jog and then I got to come back and get ready for work and all that. But I thought we could go ahead and knock out a video right now. So, this video is a request from Exile28. I am still taking requests, by the way. So, if you have another request for me, go ahead and leave a comment on this video and I'll check it out. But Exile28, pretty cool dude. He comments on some of the other videos, so shoutouts to him. And what he says here is, I do agree with all the placements, eagerly awaiting your other tier list. This was in reference to the Fire Season tier list video that I did. Mainly the Wind one, since there's not a very clear consensus on that one, in my opinion. Okay, so what we're going to do today is a Legendary Hero tier list for Wind Season heroes. So, let's go ahead and get started here. Alright, so this is what I would consider the tier list for Wind heroes. We have, of course, Veronica and Yuri all the way at the top. Now, this is arena focused. I feel like if we're talking about Legendary heroes, arena should be the primary mode that we're looking at, and the arena meta specifically. That might have gone over some heads when we did the Fire Season tier list. A lot of people were like acting like we're talking about a tier list here that encompasses the entire game, like Aether Raids and Summoner Duels, but I don't feel like that's fair because these Legendary heroes were made specifically for arena, and a lot of them you're only really going to run in arena at all because that's really all they do. Like Harid and Gunthra, for example, if you got them at plus 10, there's no reason not to run them in arena at that point because they only help your score. So that's what we're going for here. We're just going to focus on arena. So Veronica and Yuri, they player phase really well, and player phasing is definitely the playstyle you want to go for in arena. Also Gale Forcing, which is why Legendary Edelgard was very high in the Fire Season tier list because she's just a very good Gale Force option. 3 actions in a turn, that's nothing to sneeze at. Now, Yuri's got Kanto 2 built in, so he can attack and then run away. Also, he's got Foul Play to set up your other guys. And then Veronica just, like, blows up whatever she attacks. She's a very potent force on offense. So she's got to be an S tier as well. Next up, we have the A tier, and we've got Legendary Myrrh, we've got Legendary Eliwood, and then Legendary Sigurd. Myrrh is one of only 2 units that has access to Warp Bubble, so that is definitely a thing in her favor, because Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance can be very annoying in arena. Also, Oath 4 skills, and also, like, Dancing Duo Peony. After she dances, she lets your allies warp, so being able to turn all that off is very nice. And she is a dragon as well, so having access to Disencounter Dragon Seal allows her to score just a little bit higher than some of these other guys on here. So that's definitely in her favor. She's a solid enough Legendary hero. Eliwood is the god of support, and if this was not an arena-specific tier list, he'd probably be an S tier as well. But looking at arena, I mean, it's not always a guarantee you're going to be able to have a dragon on the team, unless you've got Myrrh or Corrin at plus 10 to use alongside him. You are allowed to use 2 Legendary heroes at plus 10 to get the maximum score, but if you've only got one, that in most cases that should be sufficient enough also. So you don't need to worry about running multiple Legendary heroes unless you're a whale and you've got multiple at plus 10. But Eliwood is still pretty solid regardless. His remix was pretty good, gave him a lot of combat potential, and he's giving himself bonus doubler as well as the ally that he's supporting. So he can certainly work. And then we got Legendary Sigurd as well. Pretty good player phase unit, and like I said, player phasing is the way to go. So we've got him here. He's more of a suicide type of unit, though. He wants to attack and then give your other guys +1 movement and attack up 6. And then he's probably going to get himself killed after attacking. But you can still get him to work in arena because the 4-space movement is really nice. And then also, you can save him all the way for the end and then like make a rush at the opponents and beat all their guys in one turn. So he's still pretty solid. And then in B tier, we've got the Corrin, and we have the Legendary Byleth. Another dragon unit here with Corrin, so she could help Eliwood or just help you score higher. She does have access to the Disencounter Dragon Seal just like Myrrh. So she does score a little bit higher than some of these units. Not all of them, but some of them. And then Legendary Byleth. I really wish I could sing this unit some more praises, because she offers a very unique support effect where she's giving tempo to allies in 2 spaces. but it's a drive bonus. I really wish it was just a start of turn bonus. Like, can you imagine how well this Byleth would have aged if at the start of turn she just granted tempo to allies in 2 spaces? That would have been nuts. Like, she would have been at least A or S tier at that point. But, I mean, we got to make do with what she does. She only does drive tempo. In C tier, we've got Lucina, we have Gunthra, and then we have Harid. I feel like these are still solid support units you can kind of run. Well, these 2 are debuff units, and then Lucina's kind of like a support unit. She has Future Vision, which allows her to swap and then take a second action. And unlike her father, she doesn't inflict isolation on herself. So you can pull off a double swap if you want and get your allies out of the way if they've attacked and they can't, like, cancel themselves to safety. So there is some good stuff you can do with this Lucina. Also, she debuffs the enemies by attacking defense -7 after using swap to the nearest foe within 4 spaces. So she can have some pretty nice support applications. And then these 2 with their B skills just debuffing like crazy the enemy team. So they're still solid. They can help your other units fight better by hurting the opponents and debuffing them. So they're still solid enough, I would say. And then in D tier, we've got Micaiah, and then we have Lynn. Lynn's probably the worst legendary hero. But Micaiah, I feel like Micaiah's still, like, better than Lynn. Maybe we could even do this. Because, like, Lynn is certainly worse than Micaiah, but I don't know. I feel like Micaiah, even herself, is not really the craziest right now. She still has some uses. She has double type effectiveness, and she can also be a spot bait for some mages. Not like every mage. There's some crazy mages now, but like Ninja Korin, who's pretty common in Arena, she can totally beat that Ninja Korin. So there are still some units you can deal with Micaiah on the enemy phase. Lynn, though, is... I mean, we'll talk about Lynn more when we get there. Alright, so let's take a look at some quick builds here, just for some show. So, Veronica, we're running base kit for the most part. Now, what sucks about Arena is that you can't run Trace on her. So... it's very difficult to get Kanto on this unit in Arena. You could run Escape Route 4, but then the problem is, how are you getting the chip damage on her to be able to Kanto? And I don't really have an exact answer to that. Maybe you could run, like, Attack and Speed Push 3, the Seal, because that would chip your HP by 1, and then that would enable Kanto 1 from Escape Route 4. But I don't know. I don't know if you want to do a one-and-done Seal like that, because there's no way for her to gain the Attack and Speed up 5 after that first round of combat. So we're just going for this. Seal Res, Flared Sparrow, and Blade Session will just maximize DPS. So that seems like the logical way to go. Alright, then of course Yuri's able to just attack and then cancel himself away. He's lucky that it's built into his C skills, so he doesn't have to worry about that like Veronica. I'm going for Desperation and Ruptured Sky here, because you can just hit the enemies twice in a row, and the second hit is a Ruptured Sky. Ideally, he would want Special Spiral 4 and Luna, but Luna does not score high enough for Arena, so we have to go with this. And Lethality works really well on him too, but the problem is there's no way to easily ramp into it in Arena. Unless you've got, like, Duo Asker at +10, but we're only looking at Legendary Heroes here, so I can't really account for that. So we're just going for this for the self-sufficiency. In Arena, that's, like, mainly what you want to focus on is just, like, player phasing, gale forcing, and self-sufficiency. Alright, then of course we've got Myrrh. We're running a bait build with Myrrh, because she can get away with it. So the combo of Scowl 4 and Guard 4 is pretty nice, because you turn off pre-charged specials, and then you inflict Guard. So it makes it really tough for the enemies to use specials on this Myrrh at all. And then with Distant Counter Dragons, we're getting the ability to attack from any distance. And then of course Warp Bubble for the support, very nice. She's got really fat defenses, so she can make good use of Scowl 4 and Guard right there. There's other B-skill options you could give her too, like Counter Roar is an option, or Dragon's Wrath, if you want her to attack the enemies and then take a hit and have the extra damage on the next hit. There's also Mystic Boost as well, but there's not really too many staff units to worry about in Arena. I think Duo Elise is like the only one you might come into like play against, so there's not too much need for Mystic Boost 4, although the healing can really help her out. Alright, then we've got Eliwood over here running a basic build, pretty much the build that I like to call it. Flared Sparrow, Flow Desperation, and then his C skill is giving him Kanto. So yeah, he basically has the build. His speed is not really the best, though, but he nullifies enemy bonuses, and then he's giving himself bonus doubler, so he can look after himself. Gale Force is on this build, but it's not really consistently going to be activated, so I guess you could try Heavy Blade on him if you want to give him the seal, but I mean, really just attack the enemies and then get out of the way. He doesn't need to Gale Force per se. The Kanto should be good enough, and then Flared Sparrow's there because it just adds so much damage. All right, and then finally we've got Sigurd to wrap up the A tier, so we're just running a bunch of attack and defense boosting skills on him. He's going to be really good against like physical type enemies with this, and his weapon does give him 40% DR on the first hit. So he's going to be looking good against like physical types, but keep him very far away from dragons and also mages as well. He does not want anything to do with them. All right, next up we have the B tier here. So we have Corrin and we have Byleth. So we're running this build on this Corrin. We have Scowl 4 to turn off pre-charge specials. We got Null C4 to counterattack anything. That would include Veronica in win seasons, so that can be very helpful, being able to counterattack Veronica. We also have Negating Fang, which is unique to her, and it's giving you non-pierceable DR, which is good. And then Disencounter Dragons, of course, highest scoring seal you can run, so always run it on a dragon in Arena. All right, and then we got Byleth over here. Another case where Special Spiral 4 and Luna is probably better. Or maybe even Flare in this case, because she can run Flare. But it's kind of questionable how you're getting to Flare or Luna in the first place. Luna doesn't even score high enough to run in Arena, so it would have to be Flare. And there's no easy way to get to it pre-charged for the first attack, so we're just going for Desperation 4 with Ruptured Sky. Desperation is a nice combo with her having access to Warping, Null Follow-Up, and then Tempo. So we're guaranteed to get that Ruptured Sky on the next hit. And then we got Finish 4 and Blade Session just to get more attack and speed. Alright, then we've got Gunthra over here up next. There's not really a good C skill to give Gunthra, so I just decided to go for Infantry Speed Tactic. It's very easy to use tactic skills in Arena where you only have 4 units on the team. And there's a lot of good infantry Grail Shop units you can build up for Arena that would be benefiting from the Null Follow-Up, like Lumera, for example, and Cyril, and Fallen Linus, and those guys. They all would very much appreciate getting the Null Follow-Up. And then we got Flared Sparrow and Blade Session just to maximize DPS here. You don't really need to fight with her technically. She can do some good damage because she's getting a lot of debuffs, and she has a Broadleaf fan effect on her weapon. But for the most part, I mean, you just stand her in the corner and let her debuff the enemies from afar. So that's fine enough for her. And the same can be said with Harid. He's basically just like a worse version of Sigurd because he's not getting the bonus movement, and we're really just building him all towards attack and defense. And then Freezing Seal can debuff the enemies with the lowest res. He does attack and defense -7 and inflicts guard on that target with the lowest res, and then it spreads to enemies in 2 spaces. So he can just stand in the corner and debuff the enemies and not have to fight. But if he does need to fight, he can be okay. And then Lucina also in the C tier here. So this is the build I decided to go for. There's actually quite a lot of things you can do with her. But specifically for Arena, I think this is probably what we want to do. So we've got Oath 4 to allow her to warp in. And then we can use Future Vision to swap with people to get some better setups for positioning or get somebody out of the way. Ruptured Sky with Special Spiral 4 so we can nullify DR and then hit pretty hard. And then maximizing speed and attack with the Seal and the A-Slot passive. And then finally, we got these 2 stragglers all the way in D tier. Micaiah is not the worst. I mean, I have her in D tier, but you can still get some stuff out of her. She's at least a pair-up hero too, whereas Lynn is not. So you can run Micaiah also in Allegiance battles, which is another mode that we should probably look into with these Arena tier lists, because these pair-up heroes are very vital in Allegiance battles as well. So Micaiah is able to spot bait some mages. She's got really nice res there. Very thick res. Just as thick as those Hakan-drawn thighs of hers. So you can spot tank like Ninja Corrin, Duo Peony, and stuff like that. And then we're just boosting her attack and res through the roof. She has the guaranteed follow-up, and then she also has Desperation if her HP is below 50%. So with that combo, she can bully armored units. She has effective against armor. So if she hits them twice in a row, she can probably blow them up. And then she's also effective against calves as well. So she can be fair. She has some utility to her there. Lynn, on the other hand, does not, unfortunately. So, I mean, this is the best I think we can do with her. Physical null follow-up to give her null follow-up and then also cut DR in half. We got attack and speed pledge to give her accelerated special cooldown. So the idea here would be to hit the enemies twice in a row, and then the second hit is a ruptured sky to the face. And with physical null follow-up, after you hit them twice, it's like you turned off all of their DR. So this would be the way. Unfortunately, though, her A-slot passive is not the best. It gives her attack and speed of 6, or, well, actually all stats of 6. But in order for her to gain the fire sweep effect on her A skill, she needs to be 5 points faster than the enemies, which is not very likely whatsoever. Her speed is sub 50 for a fast, like, this is a player phase unit with sub 50 speed with max investment. That's very questionable there. So, I mean, if it works, you can get the fire sweep, and then with physical null follow-up, that combos very well, because you can break through wary fighter, and then just hit him twice, and then hopefully get rid of him. She only gets the fire sweep against enemies with one range, so ranged threats like tomes and daggers and staffs and stuff, they still are able to counterattack her. So that's another downside to her A skill there, but I mean, it is what it is. What do you expect from Lynn? So there you guys go. That wraps us up for the Win Season tier list. Hope y'all enjoyed this video here. And then if you got other suggestions for videos you want to see, go ahead and leave some comments and I'll look into them. So this is your boy Tacho signing out. Take care, fellas, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.